January 2024 was the beginning of a storm I never saw coming. My husband, 21M, the man I had vowed to spend my 23F life with, started seeking solace elsewhere. It began innocuously enough. A new coworker named Sarah, 45F, entered his life. She was his mother's age, and I thought nothing of it at first. But by their second meeting, he confided in her about our private struggles, telling her he was unhappy with the lack of intimacy in our marriage. He texted her on and off for 6 months, a timeline I would only piece together later, and during that time, he used Snapchat to talk to other women as well. Somewhere in that mess, he crossed a line I never imagined he would. He hooked up with his best friend, Kane, and Kane's girlfriend, Sydney. When things didn't go as planned with Sydney, he couldn't get it up. They brought in another woman, Kyra, but the same thing happened. By May, I started noticing changes. My husband was distant, distracted, and irritable. Kane, the friend I had fought to keep in his life for years, started speaking poorly about me over their game chats. I didn't think much of it at the time, but in hindsight, it was another piece of the puzzle. Kane wasn't just a friend, he was someone I had defended for 7 years. His brother was with my sister-in-law. His family and my husband's had turned against him after dark events I won't detail here, but I saw him as a kindred spirit. My husband's family was cruel to me too, and I thought we were all on the same side. I stood up for Kane when no one else would, even when my husband wanted nothing to do with him. July was when the storm finally broke. One night, I came home to find my husband passed out drunk on our bed, covered in vomit. Normally, when he drank, he was affectionate and sweet. But this time, he called me a bitch, over and over again, a word he knows I hate. I coaxed him into the shower, and as he stumbled away, something in me snapped. I picked up his phone. What I found shattered me. Sarah was saved under a fake name, Kane, but the messages were unmistakable. He told her he loved her, that he wanted her body, that he wanted to run away with her and her child. He said he wasn't happy with me. My hands shook as I scrolled through months of deceit. And then, as if that wasn't enough, I found out Kane knew about Sarah. The final blow came just before Christmas. That's when I learned about the hookups with Kane, Sydney, and Kyra. The betrayal was staggering, not just from my husband, but from people I thought I could trust. I confronted Sydney, hoping for some semblance of remorse, but she was smug, her apologies hollow. She even tried to compare my pain to her Kane talking to other girls. It wasn't the same, not by a long shot. She had pursued my husband, knowing full well he was married. What's worse is, the very next day, Kane proposed to her. It's crazy to think that someone who obviously has no respect for marriage could boast about it herself. My husband is trying to make up for it, but I hate him for it, and I hate the women involved just as much. I've always been shy and have tried my best to be likable because I have a hard time reading social cues and understanding the social norms of society, so I don't actually have any friends or family to fall back on. So, since I have no one else to tell, I decided that Reddit loves this kind of shit and maybe I can get some advice on how to better myself mentally. I am 18F, and I found out my mom, 40F, cheated on my dad, 40M, few months ago. I found texts on her phone, telling a man that she loves him and pretty sure she has had physical relations with him too. My parents and I have really close relationship. Even during my teen YRS, I used to prefer hanging out with them rather than my friends. I share everything in my life with them and they are my biggest supporters. But they don't have a relationship at all. My father was forced into this marriage and my mother had really high expectations from this marriage, seeing her parents' marriage. My parents had an arranged marriage. But my father never gave her what she wanted and never took her side during the time my grandma or aunt, father's side of the family, harassed my mom. He always defended them, saying that they wanted best for my mom. My mom is a really good person. She has been taking in foster kids and animals, as long as I can remember, and takes care of us, sometimes even at her expense. I love her SM, but she is also an oversharer, and once during her rant, she told me that my father and her haven't had sex since 6 years. My father even forgot her birthday this year and treats her with respect you give to a stranger, not like his wife. She feels completely isolated from my family and only interacts with them if necessary, but she has never told me to act badly towards them, and when I saw what was happening to her and acted out, she scolded me that she has beef them, not me, so I should respect them. The thing I'm feeling guilty ABT is not telling my father. But I feel like it's justified for my mother's end too. She wanted a loving husband but is stuck him an unloving husband. My father is a really conservative and pure man. He rarely shouts and is really patient, but he never takes my mom's side. He is really loving towards me and respects my opinions. He is setting a really high expectations for me too. But he doesn't love my mom and doesn't give her a clean cut from a life him. One of his sisters had cheated on her husband and he cut off any contacts her and isn't even cordial her during family reunions. They had a really close relationship before and her husband was my father's really good childhood friend. He did same another friend of his too. In short, he hates disloyal PPL. I do not plan to tell him ABT mom's cheating as of now. But I just wanted advice from PPL who have experienced this kind of situations. Please be kind. I, 27F, have been best friends with Kira, 27F, since we were little. We were neighbors, went to the same school, college, etc. She was my Mo when I married Rowan, 28M, who we went to college with. At first, Kira had a big crush on him, but he started liking me. We slowly got closer and I started liking him too. This was after Kira had told me she'd gotten over it and was dating another guy. But I still felt really guilty and didn't want to date him if it would hurt Kira. I asked her multiple times if she was okay with it and she said she was, so I thought it was fine. Kira's been with her latest boyfriend, Adam, 27M, for a year or so. However, over the last few months, she's been acting strange around Rowan. Whenever we'd be hanging out with the three of us, or even with Adam there, she'd always find some way to sit next to Rowan, laugh at everything he said, etc. I didn't think anything of it initially because I knew that's kind of her personality, and her and Rowan are friends. But then she started always asking me if Rowan was there before she came over, and if I said no, she'd often suddenly say she couldn't come, though sometimes she would say that even if I said he was here. Rowan also told me about a comment she made to him once about how he was so patient for putting up with me being too tired to do anything with him now that I was pregnant, which I thought was weird. The odd behavior continued, but TBH the pregnancy had been keeping me too exhausted to give it a lot more thought, and Rowan seemed as friendly with Kira as always. But 2 days ago, our mutual friend Shay threw a dinner party. Me and Rowan went, as did Kira and Adam. Kira got a bit tipsy, and she kept trying to sit with Rowan and touch him. He excused himself a few times, but she kept finding him. I tried to get her off a few times, and I was getting mad because this was a new line she was crossing. She was slurring about how I stole Rowan from her. Thankfully, Adam was too busy talking to Shay's husband to hear this, but he definitely saw Kira's actions. The next afternoon, I was at Shay's again with some friends when Kira showed up. She was crying about how Adam had broken up with her that day, saying he didn't think they were going to work out. Everyone was consoling her, but I was just kind of sitting there. I couldn't help but feel like she brought this upon herself. She asked me, "Aren't you going to say something?" So I said maybe Adam wouldn't have left you if you weren't trying to get with Rowan all the time. Some of our other friends were shocked to hear this and got mad at Kira. Some got angry with me, saying Kira was just really friendly with everyone and that was a horrible accusation to make. Kira was upset, saying she couldn't believe I thought that of her and maybe we really weren't that close. She left in tears and I left soon after too. Now I don't know, maybe I was wrong? Kira had been drinking at the dinner party and might not have meant what she said, and the other stuff could have been nothing. Maybe this was too harsh to say to her after a breakup and we could have talked privately, not in front of our friends.